All languages allow their speakers to communicate who is doing what to whom. Structurally, languages do this in three distinct ways, either by word order, by changing the form of the verb, or changing the form of the noun or pronoun. One way to communicate who is doing what to whom is by using the order of words. English is an example of this type of language when it comes to nouns. Bob called John communicates a very different message from John called Bob. If we were to change these sentences to use pronouns instead of nouns, then we would see a different structural way to mark who is doing what to whom. As in, he called John, or John called him, or even he called him. Here, the form of the pronoun changes to show who the caller is, he, and who is being called, him. This structural method is often called case marking. Other languages will communicate the same information via different forms of the verb. These are often called conjugations, or subject agreement, or participant reference. Spanish is an example of this type of language. The form of the verb depends on who is doing the calling. I called is llamé. He called is llamó. And you called is llamaste. In languages like this, it is common to not say a separate pronoun, since the information is already communicated via the verb. We can see from these examples that the information about the subject is contained in the suffixes e, o, and aste. In some languages, the object may be marked on the verb as well. In Amharic, both subject and object are marked. Terut means they called him. Teruat means they called her. And teruacho means they called them. The u in these examples means that they are doing the calling, and the t, at, and acho show who is being called. Of course, it is possible for more than one option to be used. English primarily communicates who is doing what to whom via word order. However, we can also see a second strategy being used in the pronouns, which take different forms depending on the person and grammatical relation of subject versus object. So why does this matter? In translation, it is important to be aware of the way different languages mark who is doing the action and to whom it is done. This includes the source language, the language of the original work, the target language, the language you're translating into, and any local languages of wider communication which might be used in meetings or in reference materials. Helga Schroeder was teaching a discourse workshop in Kenya with 5 mother tongue translator teams. Their languages mostly do not use isolated personal pronouns like he, I, and they, but use prefixes or suffixes on the verb for both subjects and objects. Isolated pronouns only occur when the person referenced is important, in focus, or not clear from the context. All the mother tongue translators in the workshop used English as the source language in translation. Since English uses isolated pronouns all the time, they just copied these and so used a lot more of these isolated pronouns than they normally would. The result was something that had the flavor of, he himself went to the river and she herself saw him himself, with most of the pronouns inappropriately emphasized. After finding out the pattern of their own languages, all the translators went back to their translations and removed most of their isolated personal pronouns. Hebrew, the original language of the Old Testament, is like these Kenyan languages. It also does not usually use separate pronouns to tell you who is doing the action. Instead, you can tell from the verb form whether it is he, or she, or they that is doing something. When a separate pronoun is used, it is usually for emphasis. So, when English Bibles translate these Hebrew pronouns, they often add something to make it stronger. For example, in Micah 7:7, the ESV translates the Hebrew pronoun by saying, "But as for me, I will look to the Lord." In conclusion, when working with multiple languages, remember that a function, like marking who is doing the action, may be marked by word order, changing the shape of the noun or pronoun, or changing the shape of the verb.